So, okay, so I'm sitting here with Jenna Bruning, if I hope I'm saying this right.
Yes.
So, we met at your venue, the Gallagher Barn, which I really, really liked. That was one of my favorite weddings in the last season. So just kind of give me an overview of what you do, what do you offer?
Okay, so the barn is, we call it the Gallagher, I guess, but it's out in Medina, so kind of that little tucked away village in between Rochester and Buffalo, which Medina actually is a super cute town. I just love the town of Medina. It has tons of little shops and businesses and things like that, and that barn there has been there forever. It's actually an old barn. It started construction in 1864, so super old barn. Not our barn, but super old barn from 1864. My husband and I actually, we got married, I'm going to take you way back, but we got married in 2008, and I grew up on a dairy farm kind of in the area, the next town over from Medina. And so we had our wedding reception in the loft of my parents' barn, which was a similar style barn to the Gallagher. It was an old barn with the hand-hewn beams and that type of stuff. And back when we got married, that was, pre-Pinterest, pre-everything, I guess. Barn weddings weren't really a thing at that time. Yeah. But I just knew that that's what I wanted. As soon as we got engaged, I wanted to get married on that family barn of ours. So we cleaned it out. It was filled with straw. We cleaned it out. I pressure washed it like 3 times the summer of our wedding. We nailed random pieces of plywood and stuff to cover holes. But it turned out beautiful. It was great. We loved our wedding. We got a really great response from our wedding. But my parents still milk cows. Even to this day, they still milk cows in the basement of that barn. So, obviously they changed things around for Martin and I's wedding, but it's not an ideal situation for anyone else to get married there. Yeah. And then we moved away for work and things like that. We lived in the Finger Lakes for a few years, and then we moved back to the area. And a few years ago, it was in 2014, my brother-in-law got married. And they had their wedding reception in a different style barn, more of a newer style barn, but on her family's property. And they went to take pictures in this old barn that was in my husband's family growing up. So it was this old barn. The barn was falling down. Somebody had actually run into the side of the building that week. Like a drunk driver or someone came off the road, ran into the side of the building. There was a giant hole in the side of the building. It was just looked terrible from the outside. And they pull up to take pictures in this barn, and all the girls on the bus are like, where are we going to take pictures here? This is going to be terrible. And then they walked in the barn, and the old hand-hewn beams and the light shining in from the cracks in the walls, and it just, the pictures turned out awesome. They were gorgeous. And I wasn't actually there for the picture taking part of it or anything, but my husband came home. He's like, it was so awesome. He's like, we really need to we need to do something like that. We need to find a barn of our own. And so this barn in Medina, it was right on Route 63 in Medina, so it's kind of the main drag there. Everyone sort of knows where that barn is. It had been years and years ago, early 1900s, kind of like a show place in Medina. It was I would say, best property in Medina at that time. And then throughout the years had kind of fallen into a lot of disrepair. So it had seen paint on it in 60 years. There was not a stitch of paint on it. It hadn't really been maintained or anything, or really even used for a period of time. The front pasture, which if you drive by now, and what you probably remember, is just an open grass. That when we actually bought it was trees. It was just so grown up. We spent probably the first month that we owned that property just cutting down trees and cleaning that up. But everyone knew that barn. You could tell it had potential. And so one day, this was still in 2014, my husband just stopped. He was out from work, and he stopped and knocked on the guy's door of the house that lived there and said, can we buy your barn? So it wasn't for sale. We just really wanted that barn. And, obviously as those things go, he was not expecting somebody to knock on his door and ask to buy his barn. So we went back and forth for a while. That couple that lived there, they weren't originally local to Medina. They didn't work actually in the town of Medina or anything. They didn't really have any really major ties to Medina. And so after a few months, his wife actually ended up getting a different job on the east side of Rochester, so they moved out to the east side of Rochester. So we bought the entire property, the house, the barn, whatever. It was at the time.
How many acres is it?
So it's 14 acres.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time, it was super scary. We already, had one mortgage on the house that we lived in with. We had 3 kids at the time. I had just had a 3rd child in November of 2014. It just had a lot going on, I guess, and it seemed really like a huge, scary investment. And we really just wanted to buy the barn. We're like, we're going to buy this barn for a steal. We had really no idea how much work. We had no concept of what was going to happen. Basically, we just knew we wanted it. So we got into it. We bought the whole property. It took us a year really to fix it up, and that was. My husband did a ton of the work. My parents were super helpful. We still had kind of some of the resources. They still have an operating farm, so we were able to use some of their equipment and things like that, which was like we would not have been able to do it really without them. But we did not look into zoning things and things like that like we probably should have prior to buying it. Luckily, we super lucked out. The town was super accommodating. They allowed us to get, the correct permits and things like that. That could have really put us dead in the water before we even started. But everything, we got super lucky. So everything really worked out well. We finished we had our first wedding on July 2nd of 2016. And we did 10 weddings in 2016, and those 10 couples, they really must have seen our vision. I mean, I look back on it now and think I have no idea why they booked the barn. It looked honestly terrible. Like, there's not really any way to describe it. There were times when couples came out to look at the barn that ended up booking it where like there was no floor, like you're walking and you're just looking down into the basement of the barn. It was rough. It took a lot of faith for them to book with us, and I'm super, super grateful to all of them that they decided to take a chance for sure. So our first wedding was on July 2nd. We probably finished everything up on June 26th, pretty much right to the wire. But we had our first wedding. It was a couple from Elba, which is another small town kind of nearby, and it was great. It was the best day of my life. It was my 30th birthday. Well, I turned 30 during their wedding reception at midnight. It was just great. I have always really liked weddings, and there's a lot of different parts you can play, as you know, in someone's wedding. You could be the florist, you can be the cake person, you can whatever, but being at the barn or being at the venue, I think it's like the best part you can play, because you see everything all the way to the end. You're there when everyone's really nervous and stressed and things like that, and you're there the day before when they're doing the rehearsal and they're nervous and they're stressed and they're maybe not their best selves. But then you see that next day when everything kind of comes together and you just watch. It's surprisingly incredibly fun to just watch people have a great time. You don't have to be drinking yourself or partaking in a party to really enjoy the moment. And I don't know if it's the barn, or I just feel like people have a really good time there. And I mean, I know it's a wedding and people have really good times at weddings. I just feel like it's a really great party space. Like, it just is a good atmosphere for people to really enjoy themselves. And it's so much fun to just sit back and kind of watch that happen, and watch that happen every week.
Yeah, definitely. So just to kind of explain the space a little bit. So there's the super picturesque barn that, looks beautiful now. And then you have this little house, which is also a perfect space to get ready. Yep. So I really enjoyed shooting there with all the girls and her getting in her dress and the makeup and all that stuff. Yeah. So because we ended up buying the whole property, which was a huge blessing, we
have then the house, which we don't live in. We include it as part of our wedding package. So the house, it's an old historic brick house. It sleeps 6 people very easily in bed. So there's 3 bedrooms, and then there's a big living room, space for getting ready, things like that. So as part of our package, you get the house for both the day before the event, that night, and then the day of the event, and then the night of the event. So you get the house for 2 nights. So basically you have the whole property, the house, the barn, the whole shebang, I guess, from noon the day before your wedding until noon the day after your wedding. So almost everyone, the brides and her girls and everyone gets ready then in the house. They spend the night usually, I mean, I don't really care who spends the night in the house or how they mix it up. Typically it's usually all the girls spend the night on the night before the wedding, and then the night of the wedding. I'd say it's more of a mixed bag. Sometimes it's like as many people as they can shove in there so they don't have to drive or whatever. Sometimes it's just the bride and the groom. Sometimes the bride and the groom don't stay there at all the night of the wedding, and they go somewhere else and just a bunch of other people stay there. So however it works out is really fine with me. But the house is there as part of it. There's a kitchen in the house and things like that. So you can kind of, some people have done like a Sunday brunch the day after the wedding. Because you do get the property, we do a rental of the property is from, like say you're doing a Saturday wedding, it's from noon on Friday then until noon on Sunday. So on Friday, the way it works is you'll drop off your decorations, or somebody in your family will drop off your decorations. If people want to stay and help set up their decorations, they're welcome to. Otherwise, I'll set them up. It's honestly just as easy for me to set them up. So either I'll set them up or we'll set them up together, kind of whatever preference is. On Friday night, then people will have the rehearsal for the following day. We have church pews that we set up outside for the wedding ceremony. So there's church pews outside where the guests sit. And we're actually, I'm super excited, building a pavilion right now. So we're building it's a 40 by 60 pavilion that all the pews and stuff will be under that. So you'll still have the same view, the same hills and stuff, but you don't have to worry about rain or extreme hot sun and your guests sitting under that or anything like that. So that will be nice. That will be starting with this spring's weddings. The pavilion will be there. But anyways, so the rehearsal, I'm there then to guide everybody through the rehearsal, make sure everyone knows what they're going on. For most people, it's their first wedding, so they don't really know what's going on. So I just make sure everyone kind of goes through the rehearsal. If people want to have the rehearsal dinner there, on Friday night, they're welcome to. Most people do end up having the rehearsal dinner in the barn, and that's fine. That works out well. On Saturday then, I'm there, and I always have at least one other girl there with me through the entire event. So we just basically make sure everything runs smoothly. It seems like there maybe wouldn't be that much to do, but there is a lot to do. I pretty much run around the entire day, all day long. But we just make sure everything runs smoothly. Anything that needs to happen, we'll make sure that happens. If somebody needs to, we make sure things run on time. If the timeline needs to change for some reason, say, I don't know, a caterer is running a little bit late or something like that, then we'll coordinate with the DJ and things like that to maybe change up the timeline a little bit. If you're doing a champagne toast and you need to pour the champagne, then we would pour the champagne in glasses. If you are doing, if you need somebody to cut the cake, then we would do that. Kind of anything that needs to happen that day, we just kind of make sure that runs smoothly. And then at the end of the night, we will clean everything up. We kind of box your decorations up, set them all kind of generally by the back door. And then on Sunday, not there. So on Sunday when you wake up or your families wake up, basically you just grab your stuff and leave whenever. I say generally whenever you want to. Noon is the time on the contract. Depending on if there's something going on Sunday, I'm usually pretty flexible about that noon time. But depending on if there's something going on, so our price is $8,500 then for a weekend package, and that's going to includes all the tables and chairs. The tables we actually were able to make from reclaimed wood on the property. So there was a bunch of other barns on the property when we purchased it that were fallen down or almost fallen down. So we were able to use a lot of that wood to make tables and things like that. So all the tables are made from reclaimed wood on the property. They have really awesome, I'm trying to see if you have an example here, but those mid-century modern metal leg posts that we had some local Amish people make near us. to put on the tables, but it comes with tables, chairs, vintage lace tablecloths, plates, real silverware, linen napkins, plastic cups for the bar, appetizer, dessert plates. We provide ice for the bar. We provide coffee, tea, cream, sugar, coffee cups. We have like a random assortment of decorations.
Yeah.
So any of those that you people are welcome to use whatever they want of those. And probably should have written a list down here, but I might be forgetting something there. But
pretty much everything you would need except like the catering.
You have to get your own caterer. For the bar, actually, one of the things that you are able to do is bring in your own alcohol. We get an event insurance policy for each couple. We do require that you have to have bartenders to serve the alcohol, but with the event insurance policy, you are able to bring in your own because it's a closed venue. And then we provide the ice and the cups for the bar, and like bar towels and pours and those type of little things. And
then I guess you are focused like mainly on weddings, or is there anything else that you do sometimes?
We have mostly done weddings up until this point, and that is definitely my favorite thing to do. I do really enjoy it. We have done a few other things, so we've done some company parties and things like that. I do this year want to kind of expand the business in a few other ways. So it's just a great space. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. So I'm pretty, I would say, open-minded to different things I want to do. One thing that I kind of wanted to sort of get into on weekdays is doing type of classes. I think that there's a lot of really talented people in, between Buffalo and Rochester area that maybe don't have like a brick and mortar space to teach some type of expert level class out of, and I think that a place like the Gallagher could be a really good place to host something like that. So that's one avenue that I'm kind of exploring getting into this summer. Another thing, and I don't know, I almost don't even know if I should even say all my crazy ideas out loud, but I also really want to get into composting, which is completely unrelated, obviously, but we create a lot of garbage. And so I would really like to, and we have a lot of space, so I think composting is just like an interesting avenue that I really want to explore this summer to get into composting, and then how we can maybe use that to do like garden patches or things like that out there in the future. So I have a lot of ideas that I'm toying around with this winter to kind of put into practice this spring. So
cool. Yeah. Anything else we didn't talk about? I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, cool. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes,
appreciate it coming out.
Yes, thank you very much.